everyone, and welcome to the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast with your hosts, Jacob Smedley,
Sam Betts,
Justin Reedhammer,
Peter Amarante,
and Nathan Romanoff,
with today's special guest,
Cam Whitney.
Today, our topics will include a recap of the MLB offseason trades and free agent signings, and a division recap, starting with the AFC South and finishing off with intriguing college basketball. Now here's Sam Betts with his interpretation of the MLB offseason trades, big free agent signings.
And Jake, I'll tell you what, the MLB offseason has been really big. There have been so many moves, so many trades, so many signings everywhere. Why don't we start off with one? We'll start off with a small one. We have the Orioles trading Jonathan Villar to the Marlins for Easton Lucas, who's a minor league left-handed pitcher. So the Orioles are trying to clear out some cap space as well.
Villar was a very good player for him last year. I mean, on the team, the Orioles, one of the worst teams in the league, he did put up some good numbers.
He did, and I think they just are trying to do something new. They just want to clear out some space. They don't want to pay him, which is the problem, so he's got to go to a little bit of a bigger market in Miami, and we'll see how he fares there. We'll go to another Orioles trade. The Orioles trade Dylan Bundy for 4 minor league right-handed pitchers.
4 minor league right-handed pitchers for Dylan Bundy really seems like a lot, but now he goes to maybe a winning team, a brand new environment, maybe he can flourish in Los Angeles. I know you're going to get to the other big acquisition for the Angels with Anthony Rendon. You get to that, but he can, the rotation still is a bit all over the place, but I think he can definitely help. 4 minor leaguers, though, that seems like a bit much.
That is, and I think the Orioles are just trying to rebuild through the minor leagues is what their process is going to be. They're obviously in a rebuilding stage after losing around 100 games. Mm-hmm. So I think they're just going to try to build through the minor leagues and see how that turns out for them. Why don't we go to another one? We have the Padres, who traded Hunter Renfroe and 72nd ranked prospect Xavier Edwards to the Rays for Tommy Pham and two-way infielding and pitching prospect Jake Cronenworth.
Well, I think that the Rays, I know everyone thinks the Padres, they got Tommy Pham, but I think Hunter Renfroe is going to do a great job in that lineup and fill the same role that Avisail Garcia played last year for the Rays, be able to be that power-hitting right-handed bat in that lineup that I don't know if Tommy Pham fully did it justice last year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the
I know, and a
percentage.
lot of people questioned that when they looked at this trade. Why would you trade Tommy Pham? But I think the Rays are just trying to get another power bat. I mean, they went to the playoffs last year, and I think they're just trying to look to win, and I think they feel like Hunter Renfroe is going to do that for them. Let's go to, alright, this is a little bit of a bigger trade. The Rangers trading Delino DeShields Jr. and Emmanuel Class for to the Indians for Corey Kluber.
I think that was a definite win by the Texas Rangers.
Oh, definitely.
They're in a win now mode. They're trying to climb their spot in that division there, and definitely trading 2 guys who the potential isn't exactly top notch. They're not top 100 prospects, and to get an ace Corey Kluber, yes, he was injured last season, but the past 4 or 5 years, one of the most dominant pitchers in the game.
And I can definitely agree with that. Corey Kluber, Cy Young winner especially, so I think the Rangers are trying to win after they've struggled for years in the playoffs, going to the World Series at one point, just trying to be in the divisional kind of contention there, and they need the push, and I think Corey Kluber and some of the other acquisitions they've acquired are going to help them in that
Kyle
case.
Gibson, Jordan Lyles, building up that rotation around Mike Miter and Lance Lynn.
That's kind of what they need to do. That's what they definitely need to do. You need to have a decent rotation if you want to get anywhere in baseball, especially with the MLB baseballs possibly being
Speaking about great rotations, what about the New York Yankees? Garrett Cole, the biggest free agent in the game this year, signing with the Yankees.
9 years, $324 million.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's big money.
But he is, in my opinion, the best pitcher in baseball, and right now really puts the Yankees in. They're the team to beat. They're at the top of the league.
They have a very good chance of going to the World Series this year for the AL. But in the NL, there was also a really big pitching signing as well for the Washington Nationals, as they signed Steven Strasburg to an extension for 7 years, $220 million.
He definitely deserves it, and what he did in the playoffs and in that World Series really...
I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah,
that team played really well against the Astros.
Exactly, yeah, and he definitely deserves that money and will put that team really in the same position, I think, to compete for a division and for the playoffs moving forward.
There's something else I want to talk about here. There's been a couple teams who have been signing Asian baseball players from the Japanese and Korean baseball leagues.
Yeah.
We have Yoshitomo Taguchi, who signed with the Rays. We have Kwang Hun Kim, who signed with the Cardinals from the KBO Korean Baseball League. We have Shun Yamaguchi, who signed with the Blue Jays from the NBP Japanese leagues. And we also have Shogo Akiyama, who signed with the Reds from the NBP as well. So these guys are all in their 30s. I mean, they're not young, but they still have a lot of talent. And I also just think the MLB is trying to... teams are trying to expand to, like, different areas of the world. So, like, the MLB's... A lot of players come from, like, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, you'll always hear. But you don't really hear a lot about the, like, Asian side, like, especially but, like, in those places, like, in Korea and in Japan, there are a lot of good baseball players there. So I think MLB teams are finally seeing that talent and are trying to bring those players over to America.
So, Sam, how much of an impact do you think these players will make in the MLB?
Oh, I think they'll have a really big impact. A lot of these guys were considered like stars or legends even in their respective leagues. So I think it'll have a big impact, and I think it'll make the game a little bit more interesting to see.
But do you think it's going to take a lot of time to adjust between their old league and then MLB kind of standards, or do you think that they will be able to easily adjust?
The way that fans view baseball in like Asian culture is they get really into it. You'll see they have like chants and they'll be screaming. They'll all like come together collectively. You don't really see that in American baseball too much. So I think it will be kind of a little bit different for these players when they play. But I think it'll also be a bit interesting, and I think they'll make the game a lot better too.
That's great, Sam. Well, looks like it's time to move on to our next topic. Here is Justin Reedhammer with a recap of the AFC South Division, starting a new series here on the podcast.
Thank you, Jacob. As always, Sam, that MLB talk is very interesting. Now, let's move on to the NFL talk for today. So, we're going to recap the AFC South Division for the 2019 season. So, we're going to start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a 6-10 record this year. It was more of a rebuilding year for them, obviously. They got a new quarterback.
Gardner Minshew. Yeah. He played well in his short time.
Gardner Minshew, he did very well. He completed 60% of his passes, 3,271 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions. He played very well, I think. Especially for a rookie, I think he really deserved like any accolades that he got. He played phenomenally for them when he had to step up, because that they had Nick Foles in there at first, but then he got hurt, and then Gardner Minshew just steps up.
Season-ending shoulder injuries.
Gardner Minshew steps up and he plays, man. He played well. He kept his team afloat for a little bit, and then they went on quite a losing streak and ended up losing their chance to go to the playoffs. But overall, they had an okay rebuilding year, I think, and I think next year it's looking bright for them. Overall, their offense, they weren't, part of the cream of the crop in the NFL as a whole. They were 26 in points per game, 20th in yards per game. They were, just 26 overall. They just didn't have a good year offensively.
I think they need to build around Gardner Minshew. I don't know about you guys, but I think that's what they need to do offensively. Really
I think so
build
too,
and give him some more. Maybe if it's through the draft or free agent acquisition.
Yeah, they need more receivers. Honestly, they do need more receivers on their line. And defensively, they actually didn't do very well either. They were 29th in total defense. That's just...
Man, I remember their defense a few years ago. It was unstoppable, and now, I mean, Ramsey's gone. A bunch of their top guys from that year are gone. It's really sad to see where it all went away.
Honestly, I think my suggestion for them would be to build through the draft in their offense and build through free agency their defense. That's what I think would be their best choice. All right, and then moving on to the Indianapolis Colts. They had a 7-9 record, so a little bit better. But
They had a surprising year this year. They had a lot of good changes, a lot of edits that they made to their team, and with the loss of Andrew Luck.
Yeah, Andrew Luck going out like that.
No one saw
I
that
think that was okay. Do you think that's a positive or a negative for the Colts?
Well,
See it as a
obviously
negative.
it's a negative.
Yeah, it's a negative because he had a good year last year.
He did.
When he went to
Yeah,
the playoffs,
he was
he
the
had a good year.
comeback
It was a
player last
negative,
year.
but I
Yeah.
gotta give Jacoby Brissett a lot of
That's
credit.
what
He
I was
deserved
just
it.
going to
Good.
mention that.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Jacoby
did.
Brissett, he played well, 68.9% of his passes, 2,942 yards, 18 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions again. Very well. Played very good game all throughout the year. He led that team when really nobody expected him to. Like, he really stepped up when he had to be the quarterback. He played really well. Overall, the team played, good through a lot of their games. However, they ended up not making the playoffs. Their offense kind of could be to blame for that. T.Y. Hilton, he didn't play the year that everybody expected of him. The leading receiver actually ended up being Zach Pascal this year.
He was one of those
Yeah.
guys that really came onto the scene and played well in meaningful games for them in the middle of the season.
Yeah, he really did. But offensively, they didn't play their best. They were 16th points per game, yards per game. They were 25th overall. They were 25th. It wasn't good for them. However, the defense remains kind of okay this year. They were 16th in total defense, which is
Middle of the pack.
middle of the pack. It's not great, but it's okay.
Darius Leonard, that middle linebacker for the Colts, he's going to be a very good player and be in the, I think, top 10 in tackles for years to come.
I would have to agree with that. Yeah, Jake, you brought up a good point there.
I think that for next season, honestly, for them to improve, to maybe even make the playoffs next year, they really need to improve on offense through the draft and through free agency in the offense.
Now I've been hearing some rumors, guys. Justin Herbert, quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. Could
That's
the
my guy.
Colts trade up?
That's my guy.
Could they trade up and take him and be the end for Jacoby
He is
Brissett?
a terrific quarterback. In college, amazing stats. He won the Rose Bowl with Oregon in a thriller against Wisconsin. He's a great passer. He can scramble with the ball. He's big, physical, 6'5" guy. I think it'd be a smart move for them. I just don't know if there's other teams I feel like that need a quarterback more than the Colts. Because Jacoby Brissett, he was all right, and I feel like they can stick with him and still make the playoffs in their division.
And we see another former Patriots backup get it done.
That
So
is
I mean,
true.
they could pull that.
I can see that happen.
Although
That looks
Jimmy G in the Super Bowl, he proved himself to be a viable quarterback with he had a lot of help on offense. I'll give the offense that. He's not the perfect quarterback, but he did a lot of hard work this season, and he proved that backups under Brady, under that corporation, have potential, as a lot of backups do.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, if they can improve their offensive weapons, especially in the wide receiver perspective, I think that they can, make the playoffs next year, legitimately. All right, and then moving on to the Tennessee Titans, who were 9-7 in the regular season.
The underdog, I would say the underdog of this season.
Yeah,
the
they
underdog
were.
that no one saw coming for this season.
I did not.
They
see
were
that coming.
unexpected, especially
Very,
in
very.
the regular season. They were okay, 9-7, like I said, but in the playoffs, that's really where the magic turned on. When Ryan Tannehill just went off, he won 2 games against 2 hard teams to beat in their territory too.
But Justin,
Let's
you
not
have to remember, it wasn't only Ryan Tannehill. Derek
Well, yes,
Henry
for sure. Derrick Henry.
proved his strength.
It really wasn't Ryan
as a
Tannehill,
runner.
as we
Yeah.
said. Derrick Henry was the lead horse there. However, Ryan Tannehill had a good year. He
He
was
did.
comeback player of the year.
He did.
He had 70.3% of his passes completed, 2,742 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's a good record.
Now-
He's pretty good.
Henry or Mariota, who fits in better with Tennessee?
You mean Tannehill or Mariota?
Yeah, Tannehill or Mariota. As a quarterback, who fits in better with Tennessee?
Tannehill.
You
yes.
gotta go
I
with
would
Ryan
agree.
Tannehill because of
I would
his
agree.
regular season success and postseason success.
He did the play action pass very well this year. I think that's really what led them to victory in those
Very
2
effective.
playoff games. Yes,
Especially
I
with
think-
their run being as strong as it was. Then you catch teams off balance with a play action pass, and he proved himself this year. He really did.
Yeah, I think offensively this team was, pretty good. They were 10th in points per game, yards per game they were 12th, and they were 12th overall. So, I mean, they had a good offensive year. I think that if they can keep their offensive weapons and, keep their scheme.
That's what I was just going to bring up. Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry are free agents this year. The money is in the bank, I'm going to say. They're going to have to give these guys a lot of money to be able to stay in Tennessee and try and run it back.
But even though they had a good offense, their defense was so much better. They were ranked 3rd in the NFL. So, I think that, honestly, if you ask me, their off-season moves, they have to make more weapons on offense, obviously. I think that they need to add more weapons to the draft and offense. And for free agency, they don't need free agents. They just need to re-sign the guys that they already have.
Yeah.
So what would your top draft priorities be?
My draft priorities for the Tennessee Titans would be offensive linemen and wide receivers.
How about you, Jake?
I would say I would switch it up a little bit. I would say a bit on the defensive side. I would look more maybe to a defensive end. You have a lot of aging guys like Jarrell Casey on that defensive line. Maybe snag a dominant force there, or try and build up the defense a bit more as well.
Cam, you have any input on this? What would you do if you were the Tennessee Titans?
Draft wise, have any positions you think they need to upgrade?
I mean, maybe from defensive side, maybe their corners, maybe get a corner, pick that up, because they already have a good offense, but you can always stack on that defense and get a corner.
Nate, what would you do?
Yeah, again, I think their offense is fine where they are. You just keep Tannehill, keep Henry, and I'd say try and improve the defense as much as you can. They're already a top 3 defense.
They are.
Try and make them the best in the league, and I think you have a serious contender.
I would have to agree. I would do kind of a balance of draft. I would do a little bit of defensive. I would push towards more the defensive, because like Jake said, there's older guys getting on that defense. But like you said, they're a top 3 defense, which is really good for defenses. I would go more offensive for like receivers or linemen, like Justin said, because I think they don't need to worry about any kind of run game. They don't need to worry about a quarterback because Ryan Tannehill's got a lot of potential.
As long as they re-sign him.
They need to re-sign him, though.
Yes.
They can't worry about finding a new quarterback and finding better players in the draft. That's just not going to work for them.
Yeah, I agree. And then moving on to the Houston Texans, who won the division with a 10-6 record. Won the divisional round, yes, in the playoffs, but they ended up losing then the next week to the Kansas City Chiefs, who won the Super Bowl.
After being up 24-0 on them.
Well, really.
They blew the game. In all reality, they blew the game.
The only way you can win against the Chiefs is when you're up 52-0. Really.
I see that.
I don't know about that.
The Chiefs are made out to be this superpower. They're really not. If you have the defense enough to close the gap for Patrick Mahomes to make him throw wild throws or dangerous passes, like if you put enough pressure on him, but you also make sure he can't scramble, that stops 3/4 of his game.
I'm going to say they're still a tough team to beat, though. We're going to go off on a little bit of tangent here, but they're still a tough team to beat because their offense, while they're very good, you need a good defense to stop them, but you also need a good offense to take on their defense. Their defense is good. And so there's very few teams that have a good enough defense to hold them to low enough points and a good enough offense to be able to score enough points to be able to
But
win.
their defense doesn't do as much of the impact as their offense does.
They still do quite a bit, though, and that's why I have to say that you would have to, have the best of both worlds, which no team in the NFL really did have this year. And then we'll just quickly go through and say that the Houston Texans, their offense, they played well this year, 14th in points per game, 13th
Deshaun
yards
Watson
per
had a
game.
good year.
Great year.
Yeah.
Great year.
Yeah.
They had the 13th total offense, and that was really what carried them through the year because their defense wasn't great. It was 28th altogether. So they really need to improve defensively this year. And I'd have to say that they had to improve their offensive line, too, because Deshaun Watson absorbed sacks like
he had a lot of
nobody
wild
else.
passes when he was under pressure. Like you said, he had to absorb a lot of blows because the offensive line was kind of slacking off. But their defense, J.J. Watt did a lot of the work until he got injured. And then he was out for a while, and then they kind of crumbled, and they never really got their footing again.
Yeah, so I'd say that for their moves for the next year, I think they should improve their offensive line, I would say through free agency, and then improve their defense through the draft.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah. I would say so. I think defense has to be a top priority, especially for I mean, not just what Mahomes did, but late in the season against the Titans and against other teams. What their defense went through. I mean, it seems a bit front heavy with those good defensive linemen. I think they need to improve the back end with the corners, safeties, linebackers as well. I think that's what they need to address.
I would agree.
So, moving on from the NFL, I want to bring up some college basketball updates. So, we're going to do some score recaps, and then we're going to do a little bit of power rankings, talk about that kind of stuff. So, Saturday, February 15th, Penn State came out on top against Northwestern. Florida State came out on top of Syracuse. Kansas beat Oklahoma. Ohio State beat Purdue. Dayton beat University of Massachusetts. Mississippi lost to Kentucky. Georgetown beat Butler. Duke beat Notre Dame. And Baylor beat West Virginia. I really feel like there's some surprising teams this year. Like, in the power rankings, Penn State is ranked 8th. That's a surprise to me. They were not in a huge picture last year.
No, they weren't. I mean, but you could see the talent. They won the NIT, and they're just continuing to grow. Lamar Stevens, he is a senior, but that leadership, I mean, he's an amazing player.
They're
He's a
20
great
and
talent.
5. They're having a pretty good season. They're steadying out more than they did last year. And with March Madness coming up, it's going to be interesting to see how they do.
I'd say their main priority should be to win the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a huge step
That
for
would
them.
be a big...
Them and Maryland down the stretch.
Exactly.
Maryland's another tough
Yep.
team in there.
And Maryland is only one place above them in the power rankings. They're 7th at 21-4.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a very close foot race between those two guys.
Now,
No.
Go ahead,
Now
Ken.
do you
Go
see
ahead, go
Penn
ahead, Ken.
State being a Final Four team?
I don't. I don't.
14.
I don't see them being a Final Four team because, not because they don't have the skill, but I feel like those upper ranked teams who have been in the Final Four and been in the finals, even who have been out in the Elite Eight, know what they're doing and know what they have to do to be in those places. Penn State doesn't have that knowledge or strategy yet.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, experience does come into play when you're in the tournament, obviously. But again, this year in college basketball, there hasn't really been any solid number one
No,
teams.
there's no standout
Baylor
team.
recently
Baylor
has
is
been better.
23-1.
Yeah, but then you had, at the beginning of the season, nobody wanted to be number one.
Nope.
You got
It
number
was
one,
Duke.
and they lost.
It was a North Carolina. It was a bunch of these teams in the mix. And
I just really feel like the tournament's open this year.
who do you guys?
There's
Who
no
do you guys
standout team.
think?
Like you said, there's no standout team for number one, number two. Like, these rankings keep hopping back and forth.
Now I was going to ask, who do you guys think has the best chance to go through
man.
March Madness
That's
so
tough.
far?
That's a tough decision. What are you thinking, Nate?
It's tough. I like Baylor. They've played well. We'll see what they're really made of when they play Kansas. This is their next game against number 3 Kansas, a good team, obviously with a lot of tradition in college basketball. Duke's coming back around. They had that nail-biter win over North Carolina in North Carolina. That's always a big matchup, despite North Carolina's poor season.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'll be
haven't-
interesting. But
Going off of North Carolina, they haven't shown the talent they have had in the years past. They have standout players. Don't get me wrong.
Cole Anthony, he's a good
I was gonna
player.
say, Cole
but he was
Anthony.
injured for
He was injured. But they
Sure.
don't have standout players this year. Like it's like mainly an all offensive team.
Yeah, and they just haven't been able to get together. But I'm sure they'll be able to get their recruiting classes back up, and the talent will keep
I would
growing.
presume so as well.
The team I'm looking at is San Diego State. The
Oh, really?
Aztecs are undefeated still.
They are.
26-0. I know you guys might be thinking, well, they're not in a great conference. Still, undefeated at this point in the season is very impressive. I think they're definitely a team to look at. Cameron, what are you thinking? What team are you looking at here to go into March Madness? Feeling confident about?
I mean, I'm always confident in Virginia,
Yeah, Virginia.
But,
having a rough year this year.
They have their struggles, but a lot of teams that I'm looking, or at least the team I'm looking at, is Gonzaga.
I was gonna say
they
Gonzaga might be one of those sneaky teams that people are kind of like, okay, they're doing good, but they can make they can pack a punch.
Yeah, I agree.
So Nate, who are you? What's your?
Well, as I said, I like Baylor. Gonzaga's another good point, Cam. They're consistently among the top 5 teams in college basketball, at least for the recent years, and they've always seemed to make it far into the tournament. So, yeah, those are the teams I generally think.
That concludes this week's episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. You can find future episodes on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you for listening.